Oh, here we go. Here we go. We're yeah.
Now we good now?
We're good now. We are
Okay.
good now. This is the beauty of what happens when John is not the one in control and they allow me to have controls. And then I always forget that John changes something on me. I'm just gonna play this.
Listening, if you're listening, John, thank you.
Oh my goodness. So first off, I want to thank everybody for taking time. It's Monday night. We're here. You're here. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Um, Tonight with me is Ben Deese. Am I saying that right?
I guess I
Okay.
don't really know how to pronounce it. I would be quite honest.
Well, hopefully somebody told you how to pronounce your own name. If not, your parents really like fooled you when you were little. That could be mean.
Could be. It could be very mean.
Of course, the way I've heard some people like pronounce their names in the past, or like when I've had students and their parents like they come in and it's like the spelling is this, and it's not even like the Key and Peele sketch gone wrong. Like we're talking like there's no letters that make those sounds in
Mm-mm.
any language,
None.
and yet that's what they're doing. So yeah, so that's the case. No, Mikey Mike, this is not the Run DMC shirt. This is the Run DMX shirt. Run DMX. Although I am a fan of Run DMC, but
I thought about
that's
wearing my Run DMC shirt tonight, and it would have been ironic that you were wearing
that
that when I was wearing the other.
that would have kind of been funny. We could have planned that. We didn't, but we could have.
Whatever.
So tonight is going to be just kind of an interesting thing. For those of you that don't know, John is out attending to family issues again tonight. So thoughts and prayers with his family. Things, those of you that know what's going on, things have gone well. So we're very, very thankful for that. But and MJ just is like, listen, I'm John's taking off, I'm taking off. And so I was like, well, let's see, what can I do? And so we thought, perfect opportunity, reach out to Ben. So Ben and I, well, it's been a couple years since we met, I think.
We've never met in person.
No, we haven't. But it was a virtual training night because I remember, and it was one of those nights that they had an
Oh, that was
open
back when
room.
COVID hit, right?
Probably, yeah.
And they were doing the expo essentially virtually.
Yeah.
And I think it was was it the one with NLFX or was it the one with promo only? No shameless plugs there, by the way.
No, neither. Shameless is allowed tonight. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I want to say it was the NFLX. It was one of those where they had like vendor rooms. And you and I just got chatting about controllers.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. And ever since then, it feels like anytime the new product comes out, we're like messaging each other like, hey, did you see this? Did you hear about this? So I thought tonight would be a perfect opportunity for us just to get together, BS a little bit, broadcast it to everybody in YouTube land, and allow people to kind of see some insight on the way you and I think, because it's a little scary sometimes the way we think, and somewhat similar. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk gear tonight. And everybody's ears about gear. We're talking gear. Yes, we're gonna talk about gear. What I want to kind of dive into is just kind of some of the thought processes that you go through when new gear comes out, and or you decide to make some sort of change in your system. And so I thought maybe what we would do is we kind of, since we're both mobile guys, we would kind of go through the elements of our mobile systems and say, okay, what is going to be that piece? What is going to be that piece that really does set everything up like that? And oh man, I really wish, hang on a second, I got to do something because my neighbor just sent me a message that said there's a huge bear outside of our house right now. I don't see it. I'm looking at my camera.
Don't go chasing it.
No, I'm not going to, but they said there's trash all over our driveway and he's outside of our house right now. And I'm looking at the cameras and it's not showing. So I feel cheated. And Anyway, sorry for everybody for that divergent, but I'm like, I live close enough to woods that I get animals, but not so close that I've seen the bear yet.
We get coyotes around here. So
Coyotes?
coyotes and owls. I actually saw an owl fly across the street the other day, and it was pretty cool. I've never seen it all. I mean, like the wingspan was like probably like 6 feet. It was crazy. And it was sitting on the fence and just looking at us.
Nice. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Let's talk kind of through this process here and the different systems in that. Let's start ceremony system. So we'll talk kind of rather than talking, like let's just talk microphones or ceremony system, right? You decided to start putting something together for that. What was your first thought when you started to put that together?
My current ceremony system?
Sure.
All right. So let's start out with a big distinction that I think is important. I do not operate with a trailer. I operate in the back of an Equinox, so a small SUV, and I do not want to upgrade to a trailer nor a cargo van. One, because I don't need another vehicle, don't have room for it, and two, I don't want to pay the taxes. So very common, right, among DJs is we want one vehicle to be able to transport. So first, in the essence of all of this conversation, we have to start there. We have to start somewhere, right?
Hey Ben, real quick here. Your mic is rubbing against your hoodie, so just be a little cautious of that piece.
Let me move my string.
I don't know if it's a string or if it's the hood part itself.
I think I hit I'm a hand talker, and so my hand hit the microphone. So sorry.
It's okay. Sorry.
Robin wants to know if you should check in on your family, by the way, in the chat. Make sure the bear's not taking your family out. Sorry, squirrel.
No, the bear's fine. The bear's fine.
Okay.
Although Keith's gonna come over and take a picture for me, I think. He's Casey Sound. He's like 2 blocks like that way from me. No, the family's all fine. In fact, none of my youngest is asleep, and the oldest and the wife are over at the high school. So they're not there now.
Okay, so ceremony system. Sorry, let's go back to there. We're going to current ceremony system. So current ceremony system. The first thing when I first started with the ceremony system was I wanted to have the capability to have either 2 lav mics or a lav mic and a handheld wireless. So I currently use the don't hate me for all the people in the chat. Doesn't have antennas. I know. I've had it for a long time. The Shure BLX 288 system. So I can use a wireless handheld and a lav mic or 2 lav mics. Also, it's shameless plug. It's great if you're doing an acoustic for anybody and you're running sound, because then you can wireless pack it and give them a vocal mic, whatever, neither here nor there. So something of that nature, and then something of some sort of speaker, 12-inch. That's what I have had until I got that back there.
Notice the little plug he's put. Yeah, by the way, the little thing in the background, that's the Everse 8. Those of you that have like not heard of this, like you've been living under a rock or something, I don't know. Yes, not only did he get one, not only did he order one, he already has one and he's showing it off.
I used it this past weekend, actually. I bought it the day you could buy it without no money, and I will say it's great. I bought it, whatever. So wireless mic in that form or fashion, and then I've been using a 12-inch speaker. So had a battery power because I didn't want to have to run power to the speaker, and then a 4-channel mixer. So I could run 2 channels of microphones and then a channel of audio, whether it be, I generally use my iPad for ceremony just because I don't need to have another mixer. I'm one of those, I don't feel you need to mix ceremony music. I'm not DJing for ceremony. It's Vitamin String Quartet, song for the bridesmaids, song for the bride to come down, hit the recessional song, boom, you're done. So a little Allen Heath ZE10, I think is what it is, mixer. And then one of the biggest upgrades I've made recently to that I currently still use, I went with the Rock and Roller R12 Stealth, and I got the shelf. Reason I got a shelf in the R12 Stealth is because it's all terrain. So you can roll it through grass, gravel, dirt, and kind of roll it out anywhere and have a table already there for you. And then you don't have to worry about any of that. So that's, let's see, cables, course, extension cords, course, microphone, speaker. I toggled between a ZLX and an Alto Transport 12. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. Frog. And so kind of teetered between those, but now I've sold both of those, so I'll be using the as I'm working on some more upgrades that we can talk about later.
It's all about the upgrades. It's always about the upgrades. It doesn't matter. We're never happy 100% with what we have. No, that's awesome. Now I'll be honest. So my system is a little bit different. I do have a mixer. Now I don't have a controller. Let me phrase that. I've got the DJ to go to, right? I've got that. So that's my back and forth. I'm not doing anything fancy. I just like being able to have that versus my finger touching, because like on an iPad or a Surface Pro or anything like that, because I don't want like, oh, my skin's dry. Crap, I need to hit it. Stop, licking it and then get it to work. Like, no, I want it to work. So I have a little DJ to go to, but I like having a mixer. And so I at the time when Lou Paris was really putting out his blogs and was talking about the Soundcraft and that, I thought about going the direction of the Soundcraft, but the problem was I wanted to keep mine small, right? I appreciate what he does and how he has his set up, but for what I was doing, I wanted to be able to have my control of the system. I wanted to be able to have the little mini mixer to play. And I wanted it to be able to put up on top of a stand or something like that. So it was over with me. So I went with the Presonus. I went with the Studio. That was my upgrade. Like that was upgrade number 1 for that.
Which Presonus, I have to ask?
Studio Live 16R.
Okay, so the rack mount version.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, I wanted it's a 1U space. Like that was reason number 1. It was 1U. It's deep. Like it's kind of a pain. It's a little deep. But I have way more inputs than I've used ever. I had a couple of live musician one times, and like I think even at that I maxed out at like 7, and that counted the microphones. It was crazy. But I like it because as a single op, I can go out there and do to do sound check with my iPad, controlling it. So if I get up to the front and I'm, standing where the officiant does, and I'm doing the mic check and everything else, and I'm like, oh, I'm hearing a little tinniness. I'm hearing a little, I can tweak it, right? I can EQ it standing where I need to be standing and knowing I'm not going to get feedback, or purposely ring it out, like walk right in front of the microphone, or right in front of my speaker and like, nope. All right. We're killing that frequency. So that was my big proponent there. I would encourage those of you that are out there, if you can at some point pick up some sort of digital mixer like that. Again, if you don't want to do the Presonus, I don't blame you, right? Like
let's get to reception and we can talk about that a little bit more.
Oh yeah, we'll get to there too. But my pocketbook hated me for a little bit. Like when I was doing my checking account did not like me after I bought it. So there are other options out there, but just having that flexibility is good. So now let's keep talking about ceremony for a little bit as we're talking about this, because this is someplace I think we've talked about this, and you and I disagree a little bit. You put your speaker that you run them from the back.
Well, yeah. Okay. So let's start this conversation, because there's also a difference here too. So I actually work for a company. So I'm a contractor. I used to have my own business. So I work for a large DJ company called Split Second Sound here in Charlotte. So we have like 40 different DJs. We do like 600 weddings. So same kind of demographic where Joe Bunn is. Rick Webb is 2 hours, I think, north of us. So he comes down to Charlotte sometimes too. So whatever. But so we have a system that all the gear is my own. Let's start there. So everything I'm telling you is my own. We aren't provided gear. I know there are some that do that. So I think that's important to note too, as we discuss tonight gear. So I set up in the back. Reason I set up in the back is it's easier to stay out of photos to be in the back. And that's kind of as something that we do as a company where they want us to kind of be in the back. I don't really want to be in the front, to be honest. I don't mind the side, but the front to me just seems like I'm in the limelight and the ceremony is not about me. That's what we're there for the reception for generally, is that's when it's about us.
And I will say that I used to have that philosophy of now keep in mind, I don't need to be seen for the ceremony. We're not talking about me. But I used to set my speaker up in the back and it was fine. Like it worked. But I will tell you one huge problem that I had with it was controlling the feedback situation at some of the venues. Like the venues that are wide open spaces, not really an issue. But the ones where the sound wouldn't just more like some I had that were kind of in the woods, so there was enough to kind of keep it close. I just found that a lot of times I had feedback, or my typically was my bride coming from the back when my speaker's facing this way. She wasn't hearing the music. Like she wasn't knowing when to start. And I'm like trying to give them signals and they're going, where's the music? And I'm like, it's playing, like, come on. And it just kind of felt weird. However, I also had some sound people who were like, well, you know, when you go to a concert, they don't put the speakers in the back, they put the speakers in the front because that's where the stage is. That's where the sound is initiating from. So to have the speakers in the front becomes this other way of doing it. So I don't go up front, but my speakers are, and I will say I keep my speakers out wide enough that unless I have a crappy photographer, they're not showing up in them. Right.
Yeah.
They're off to the pieces enough that can help.
But the
So yeah, so
PreSonus 16R helps you with that because you're on a digital mixer, right? If you're on an analog mixer, the amount of cable that you have to run to be able to get all the way around to the back, to the side, to not be visible becomes a challenge.
well, it's not the mixer that allows me to do that. It was the other upgrade I did. So the other one that my pocket blockaded. So this was an idea I had a few years ago, which was I wanted to be able to run what allowed me to do these was things like the Averse 8, the Bose S1, the JBL EN1, the Mackie Thump Go, like all these battery powered speakers really kind of opened up a lot of the possibilities for us when it comes to sound in these outdoor ceremonies. Because now that they're battery powered, right, we can put them really wherever we want. What becomes the issue is getting the signal to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you hit on, we could run 50, 100 foot of cable. Why would you want to? So I've tried a lot of different scenarios. I picked up a few years ago. Sennheiser had, and I think they're technically for like video cameras, but they're two belt packs, right? One is like an XLR in, one's an XLR out. And so basically you put one in one channel and you put one on the speaker, right? And it sends it. And when I was doing one speaker, that worked well. I even went a step further and it sounds like I'm a Sennheiser like fanboy. I'm not. I just use a lot of Sennheiser like mic stuff. So Sennheiser has those sticks, right? They're like yay long and just like a little round stick.
Sennheiser
And
XSW-D. Just
thank you. You would think I'd have my products down, but I don't. We're going to be shameless plugging all night long here tonight. So I bought those. So then what I was doing was I was using belt packs to send it to one speaker. When I got the second speaker, I was using the out of the one, sending it over. It was just a pain. It really was a pain. So my upgrade that I did last year, I think it was last year, maybe it was the beginning of this year. I bought a Sennheiser IEM system.
Mm.
And I come out of the PreSonus into the IEM. I put one on one speaker, I put one on the other, no wires, completely wireless, completely battery powered. I can put them wherever I need to put them.
And you're using your Bose S1 for that, right?
Correct. Because when I bought mine, the Averse 8 was not in my knowledge of something that was coming.
See, that's another difference, I think, as well, right? About sound for ceremony. I only run one speaker. And I'm sure
is that a company choice or is that a you choice? Because you mentioned having two of the altos, didn't you?
No. I had a ZLX and I would alternate just whatever I wanted to take. And that Alto Transport 12, by the way, was a battery powered speaker that I've had since 2017 and still held full 8 hours of battery. I hate they discontinued it. No, I only use one. That's a personal choice. I don't know anybody in our company actually that does two. In all honesty, for the short, 30 minutes you're doing ceremony, unless you're playing a Stevie Wonder track, isn't she love? Right? Sorry. Hopefully we don't get copyrighted. It wasn't
played. Okay, since you sang it.
Yeah,
it works as a cover on YouTube now.
Yeah, it's a cover. And it wasn't long enough either. But what I found is even you're only playing 30 minutes. The majority of it's speaking, right? Generally speaking is not in stereo. You don't have left, right in stereo. And so most songs nowadays are not left or right. They're all where you can hear them on a single. And I generally have actually started to just pan all the way left to produce my sound. And it sounds just fine, except for I did have an issue with a cable. I had to reach out to the guy who I bought that from to have a discussion. But it's just a choice, right? It's a choice of what you want to do. And as we talk through gear tonight, right, we give shameless plugs to whether it be Sennheiser or PreSonus. It's all a choice, right? And how we want to set it up and works best for us. In my Equinox, I don't have enough room to carry. If I'm going to carry my two Evolve 50s, my controller, my stuff for, we're just going to say stuff for reception until we get there in a little bit. Plus a cocktail speaker, plus a ceremony system to carry additional speakers in there, right? So it's a space saver to not use all of those.
Yeah. No, agreed 100%. And I would encourage, whether you do that piece panning all the way to the left, or whether within your software, whatever you're doing, you just set up for mono. I think music wise, for the most part, you're going to be better off, right? They're not putting this in headphones. They're not sitting in their car or something else where you might want to have that stereo aspect. Just run it in mono. Some like 99% of the time it's not going to matter, except for like Charlie Puth's new song, Left and Right. That's about the only time it ever matters. But within that idea, for me, I like the two speakers because now if grandma's sitting here or grandma's sitting here, I can balance it. And by having the two, I don't have to run either of them very hard and worry about feedback as much. I hate the idea of feedback. I hate the idea that I also like the fact of redundancy. If something goes screwy with one, I've got the other one. And especially during a ceremony, I don't have to play panic mode quite as much. If something were to happen to one. All right, let's switch gears here. So you mentioned so we've taken care of ceremony. We beat that one to death here. Switching over cocktails, right? So you mentioned you bring a cocktail speaker. Now let me ask this question then. Do you typically have cocktails in a separate location from the main reception? Is that common?
It depends. Typical Ben answer, right?
I was going to say, which Ben do we have here tonight? No.
So it depends, in all honesty. So sometimes it's in a different location in the ceremony, so you need something additional, or you're close enough where you can just turn the ceremony speaker and use it. Been there the past couple of weeks. Or it's in the reception space, or sometimes it's in a completely different area of the venue, and so you do have to provide additional amplification. That's the correct term that I'm going for. So if that's the case, then it would generally be a fourth. So I would have another speaker that I would use. So I believe currently that would be an EV ZLX 200 12P in black. All the speakers that I'm gonna mention are all in black because I know you asked me that the other day when I bought this one back here. EV ZLX 212P in black, cord in the back, iPad on top with a playlist downloaded. That's discussed with the bride and groom prior to just the playlist because we're always doing other things. So nothing too crazy on a speaker stand. So
I think, there's been talk obviously over the years, should you have something pre-done, like a pre-mix or something like that. I'm with you. Cocktails, you don't want downtime, but you don't need to be beat mixing, in my opinion. Somebody will probably be like, oh, you need to do whatever. That's fine. That's your choice.
if that's what you want to do, grab your iPad, get a playlist, and use Serato Pyro and let it mix.
There you
are
go.
Nobody's paying it any attention unless you're in a club in Vegas for cocktail hour for whatever reason. They're not. They want to just drink. Or if you do a dry wedding, they want sweet tea.
You can tell he's in the South. Sweet tea. Woo-hoo. Man, I missed that. From when I lived down there. Okay. So now switch into reception. Well, first up,
hold on. What do you use for cocktail?
So I would say a good 95% of mine are in the same room as my reception.
Okay.
I rarely have it in a separate location. Occasionally, if I will steal from Peter to pay Paul, so I'll take one of my speakers from ceremony, and I'll run that over, and I will just I have a tray. I'll either stick an iPad on top, or I have a tray that will attach to my tripod, and I'll stick that on top of the tripod, or attach that to the tripod and just put the iPad on there, and then run a cable up to it. Or I've even been known to Bluetooth it, because we're talking half a foot difference between the two. Bluetooth's not dropping out of me in that case.
Have you ever had somebody try to sync to your Bluetooth speaker during cocktail hour?
I have not.
I've thought about that while trying to use Bluetooth at cocktail hour. I'm like,
If you ever have that, you have a DJ that's just messing with you, because there is a passcode. I think there was passcode.
No, on the eVerse 8 there is not. You just have to find
on the S1 there was, I think.
But you have to put it in pairing mode. So you have to put it in pairing mode before it'll do it. So I don't think it'll recognize another one after you've already paired. So I don't know. I haven't tried that yet.
Find out.
Yeah.
So that's one piece. So yeah, I will use my S1 Pro, or depending upon what I'm using for my reception rig, I have another backup in the car, or because I do carry a trailer 90% of the time. And so I have a pair of EKX 12s rather, that I will just if I need to, I'll grab one from them. Again, same idea, only this time I don't have Bluetooth with it, so I will have to run a cable up. But it makes it nice. It again, it kind of depends upon where I'm at. So when I do the steal from the ceremony, there's one venue in particular. If they don't do it inside where the reception is, they do it around the corner. It's a barn. There's no power out there for where the cocktail is. So I have to use a battery powered for out there. And I will tell you, when the eVerse came out for this one venue, I'm like, do I get it? And I'm like, for this one venue, no. But if I get enough other venues like that, maybe. Yeah. All right. So let's switch then. So talking about receptions, right? What has been your process? Because we've talked about this, about making some upgrades. Let's start with we'll save lighting for last. Okay. So let's start with controller.
Okay.
Let's start with controller.
So what's
been your process in thinking?
Yeah, well, let's give history on controller, because I think that plays a part in my process. So what year is it? It's 2022. I think it was. Let's see, I got that then. All right, so let's go back 2 years, because I remember there was a discussion. I can't remember when it was that you and Michael had and John had. It may have been last week, about how often do you upgrade controllers. So 2020, I did a wedding. It was we had 2 DJs that we were at, and there was a drink, a sweet tea spilled on my SX2 mid dance set. And so, and Howie says once connected, no one else can connect to your Bluetooth speaker. Thanks, Howie. Sweet tea was spilled on my Pioneer DDJ SX2. Well, it's just end of the story. It still works. It's downstairs as a practice controller.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but the channel 1 sticks a little, so I don't take it out. I don't take it out the case. But so SX2 got in trouble. So bought the SX3 because I believe you and I talked about that time. I was looking for something else, and I think that's about the time you and I met. And was looking for something else, and there was nothing else out that I was really wanting to buy. So I went with the SX3 at that time. The reason I went with the SX3 was because I didn't want to have to learn something new. Because I had a wedding coming up in about maybe a month from when I was looking to order it, so I didn't have time to learn something new. That was fake news. I really did have time to learn something new, but I didn't want to. So SX3 had that for a while. And then one of my buddies actually got the Prime 2, the Denon Prime 2, not the new one, the Denon Prime 2. I got to talking to him about it. And so one of the things I look at is when I'm looking at a controller is how do I plug in a backup, right? If my laptop was to hit the fan and I needed something else to play on, honestly, I don't want to have to run 2 laptops. So I was looking, the SX3, in my opinion, for those of you who use it, it's a great controller, but in my opinion, that the sound card on it was garbage. And I've heard a lot of other people have issues with it. I know there's an upgrade up there for it too. But so I ended up buying the Prime 2, the Denon Prime 2, and it was really because of the internal components of it, being able to essentially have that backup right there in front of me and not have to run 2 laptops. Now, I still run Virtual DJ, yes, Virtual, love it, with the Denon Prime 2. And so, but I use the Prime 2 as my backup. I can actually mix true mixing when Michael watches this, true mixing, pressing all kinds of things and all kinds of fun toys. So I mix on the Prime 2 and I can transition back and forth. And I've actually had this year an issue where I had to use the backup as the Prime 2 because there was an update to my Windows computer that was causing a sound issue. It was a lot of static. And I noticed there were some other people in DJs Helping DJs Facebook page that's having the same issue. And so it turned out to be a Windows issue. But because I had that backup in the Prime 2 with all my music backed up and everything, it was able to go in and just run it. So I was looking at what can I do to improve the sound quality, make a more compact setup, because I also run a backup wireless mic. So when I got the case, I got the 1U, I think I got the Pro X case. So it's at the 1U below it because I wanted to be able to put some other things in there and not have to, if I go out to a smaller gig, I can just take my controller and not have to bring my other toy that goes under my table that we'll talk about, I'm sure. And so it worked out to where it's more beneficial for me in the long run to have it than to stay with that SX3 that I didn't really like. I was just with it because, it's cheaper to keep her.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, anytime we want to make a change, like that's some of the things I think a lot of us go through is like, we see the latest gear and it's like, oh, like I got to get that. I got to have that. And then we got thinking about it and it's like, is that really the smart idea? One, because there's cost involved with, that's always going to play havoc. But
we went
also
through form factor too when we had that discussion.
Exactly.
Because I think you went with the Roland and we were talking about the size of the Roland, right? It was 19 inches and I got to measuring, right? If you measure 19 inches, it's rather small. And so I got to thinking about size of it too. And for the gigs we do and the clientele we get from time to time, taking something that's like really small might not, be a part of being a DJ is perception is reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing me roll up in a little Roland 707, kind of kept me in the same capacity where I had to essentially either it was at the point where I had to either get another backup laptop because the other one was going downhill or do the promptu. That's what it came down to. That's why I didn't go Roland.
So I still run the 7000 as my main.
Mm-hmm.
So and for those of you that watch the show, like I have the rolling booth and then I have a Danny Max booth. And so in my rolling booth, I have the 7000 because it's got that big look. It's got the big piece that that I was looking for. As Ben was talking about, you gotta look the part, right? And maybe if that's not your brand, that's fine. But my brand is I want to be able to create something, and I want somebody that walks up to go, like, even if I only use like 2 buttons, it doesn't matter. Like that, right?
Play and pause.
Play, pause. Oh, and a cue. I got to use one of the cues. I'm not going to use more than one. I've got 8 buttons. I only need 1. That's it. And pitch control. So I use a couple of them. All right.
Crossfader?
No, just channel.
Deactivated. I don't use a crossfader.
Deactivate the cross. I bump it too much.
Yeah.
Like where my headphones hit it. Like, yeah. Now on the rolling rigs, not so much, but in the DJ Max, it's a little bit lower, and so I hit it more. But I went with this. I went with a Roland in that. And what was kind of nice was because it's got this table aspect to it, and it's more on display. It doesn't look as tiny as it does just sitting on a table.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it makes a difference as to what you put it in with. All right, you piqued my curiosity. What's the thing that's hidden underneath the table?
So Lou Paris and I talked quite a bit back when I started working on this. So I kind of modeled this after his. So we talked earlier about you having the 16R. So I have under my table. So let's talk setup, right? So I still use a facade. Yay for facades. Don't care about rolling in, right? You're either for them or against them. It doesn't matter to me. I use a facade. I love it. So black facade, 4-foot table. Under the table is a gator case. Inside of the gator case is a Sennheiser E835. No, E100. EW100. Yeah, with the E835 handheld, right? Capsule. And then but with that, under that is a Behringer XR12. So very similar, right? So I went the cheaper route for now. And then under that is a custom panel that NLFX made. So I actually have a Furman power conditioner in there too. So I had a custom panel made that brings all the power from the back of the power conditioner to the bottom under there. So I have all of my power is inside of that. And then also inside of that rack is a dual band wireless router. So not a Airport Express or anything. It's actually Netgear. But with that router, my system is set up where I can control my lights. I can control my sound. I can actually control virtual DJ from there as well. All from the iPad, right? Which I'm sure you have too, right? But it allows me to be able to control all of that and walk around EQ the room and do everything like you can with your 16R. But it's in that sort of case. But that's what I'm looking to upgrade now, is that mixer in there that goes under there, right? Instead of an analog mixer, because then, as you said, you can walk the room. But then inside of the Denon case, there's a Shure mic in there. I don't care either one. I'm leaning more towards SM58 if I want to upgrade the mic again. Then wireless DMX, powered USB hub that powers everything inside of there. And so really in that case, though, I'm able to run all my power. So from a single location. So my rig only requires one 15 amp outlet is all it requires. And so all my power runs through the power conditioner, is able to split out.
Nice. And that includes your speakers?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So speakers are coming into it. Okay. And that's what I thought you said, but I just wanted to make sure. So, and I think that's important, as we look at this. So I'm curious now, you mentioned You mentioned it sounds like you're looking at an upgrade for the mixer. Is it
Mhm.
just because you want to get away from the Behringer, or what's leading this push to go for something different?
So first, I need something that has more mic preamps. So we do a gig here in Charlotte from time to time. It's the Italian Festival. So this past year we did it, and there was probably 700 people that came through, and we did the sound for it. And so I actually had to borrow a buddy's. I think it was a Behringer XR 16 because it didn't have enough channels. Right, even if I do it once a year, I can still. If you think of Brian S. Red's theory of how you pay off gear, right? If you think of 5% per gig, it'll still pay off in the long run. So I've been thinking about it, but going from the XAir 12 to the PreSonus 16R actually to upgrade because it'll give me more channels of XLR. And then it'll also allow me on that, if I remember correctly, you can move the channels around. So I could leave my mic plugged in because currently I'm unplugging and plugging my mic in every single time. Um, Only into the front of the Behringer. It's not. It stays plugged into the back of the receiver all the time. So it's to essentially give me more channels, more inputs and more outputs from an aux perspective because the Behringer only has two aux inputs. It has 12, so six, I think. No, it has four mic inputs, so four XLR combo mic inputs, and then the rest are 1/4 inch. So I'm not able to do more than four mics with that.
Yeah, so definitely having that flexibility is something to think about. And exactly like you said, the long term, and not having to borrow from somebody is almost like double paying for the gig, right? You know what I mean? Like if whereas if you do that upgrade and you take that percentage that you were talking about, but then you're also having to borrow it or having to pay it to somebody else because you borrow their equipment. You know what I mean? So it's all you can by having that upgrade, it's like the counting for two gigs
Yeah.
because you don't have to pay the rental fee and you get the profit. So
DJ Mikey Mike asked in the chat, what Behringer am I running? It's the Behringer X Air 12. So it's rack mountable inside of it. And it does take up quite a bit of space too. That was the other thing I was looking at is with that, I think it takes up like 4U inside of there. So and I think I have a 6U case. So 1U open at the bottom. But with that would become another custom panel, right? To essentially bring auxes from the back to the front. So essentially it would have two custom panels in the system.
so in my rolling rack, I have I think it's a Gator case. It's like a 4U case. And I have a Personas in there because I was dumb and bought two. So I have one in there and I have all of my mic receivers plugged into it. So like, again, I don't have to like plug in, unplug or anything. It all goes in there. And I have from the back of that running to a patch panel on the bottom. So when I do plug in for my speakers, it's all at that low level, right? I'm not bringing it from the table down. It's all right
Yep.
there. Click, click, and I can be done and on my way. And that was one of the things that I've had that patch panel. Oh my gosh, I don't know how long now. Because I want to say maybe it even started. Maybe it was when I built my 7,000 rack. Because I had the 2U underneath the 7,000 in the
Ooh,
coffin case. Yeah, I mean it made it super
that's
heavy in there.
heavy, isn't it?
Oh, trust me, with everything that I put into that thing, it was a beast. That was part of what led to the rolling booth. Like the rolling booth obviously weighs a lot more than that case does, but now I don't have to lift the rolling booth onto a table. Um, yeah, that well, let's go ahead and talk that because we got a few minutes here. So my old case prior to going to the rolling one, I had the MC 7000 in, I had two Sennheiser EW100s. They were attached underneath the slide rack on the underneath the laptop rack, a laptop tray. They were attached underneath, like I secured them underneath that. And then in the 2U I had underneath, I had a Furman power conditioner and I had the patch panel to run everything. I also had a wireless mic in there and I had attached my Show Express box. all in this case.
And this was in your 7,000
That was in the
case,
7,000 coffin.
Sorry, I
case.
lost you after 2 mics in the case because I realized how heavy mine is to have all that in there.
Yeah. I got to work out every weekend. Like that was, and it really was. I mean, it was kind of the pain. Now keep in mind, I think it seemed worse than it was. I mean, the other thing is I had a rock and roller cart, so I'd move it in, and that kind of stuff. So it really didn't seem as bad, I think, other than when I would heave it onto it.
I got another shameless plug for you here real quick, Dan.
Yeah.
If you do not have some sort of cart to roll your stuff in, I highly recommend. It doesn't matter if it's the Milwaukee cart from Lowe's or Home Depot. And John may have on this other channel a deal, who knows, help support the channels, right? Definitely get yourself a cart. To hand carry everything in this day and age with the amount of equipment we have to take in from time to time, it seems kind of crazy to me that not everyone has a cart. I know there's some DJs out there who are like, oh, I want to carry everything in. Okay, that's fine. You'll be more tired at the end of the night. I'm going to carry everything in. So, yeah, Mikey Mike says you should be able to wrestle a bear because of all of that. But just a shameless plug, right? If you need a cart, make sure to reach out to Ben over at NLFX for that too.
There we go. All right, so let's talk real quick here. Let's talk lights because we got just a couple moments here.
Hey, can we talk cables? I'm curious of this. So with your rolling booth, how many cables does it take you to get ready, like to be fully running? Saying don't take out lights. Take out lights.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5? Okay.
Yeah. Power from each speaker, audio to each speaker, and the power cord from the Furman to the wall.
Maybe 5.
As I say, there's got to be 5, unless you're doing. Now you could have a combo cable, and I would still count that as 1.
Yep. So I run a combo cable to the left and a combo cable to the right. A drop down from my controller, and then the surge protector. I don't count. Do we count that as a cable?
You got to plug it in. You've got to
run it. So then we say 6. We say 6 then. It depends on where I'm at. If I'm close enough to the wall, I don't need a power cord.
Okay.
Yeah. So 6. If you have to have an extension cord. Yeah.
And I would say definitely, that same idea, right? You want to be able to keep things smooth. You want to be able to keep things, quick. And that's one of the reasons why, I love my rolling booth, is because everything's pre-connected. Like I don't have to connect anything.
As we go to lights, the goal here, folks, is to keep everything quick. Build a system so you can be in and out. There was one time I was able to get out of a venue in 12 minutes from the time I played the last song to the time I was rolling out. It's about keeping your system compact, right? And setting it up so you know how to get out. Sometimes it drives me crazy to see people taking hours to get out of a venue. Like, what are you doing? I mean, if you got 20 speakers and you're running a band, cool. But if you're a DJ, taking an hour seems a little bit insane.
The only time I end up taking too much time getting out is when somebody blocks where I'm going to be able to pull my vehicle up.
Yeah.
Like when I'm ready to leave before the buses that are full of the people that are leaving from the venue, like I'm doing something right then. But then the pain is I like there's been venues I've been sitting there for 10 minutes going, buses, just leave already. Please leave. I want to go home.
Yeah, get out of the way.
All right, we got to talk lights because we do have to hand things over to Howie, and I appreciate Howie so much and everything he does. I don't want to make his show late. So lighting upgrades. So you first off, share everybody what you're using now and where you came from with that.
So currently I use 2 Wash FX2s. And I run them on a tripod and I angle them up for a room wash. Try to eliminate as much blinding light as I can on the guests, but at the same time, it adds a really cool photo, and a lot of photographers like it. Before that, I was using mini Kentas just to give some motion in the room. But then when I prefer to more of a wash, so I use Show Express to run my lighting on with a programmed step system that runs through a timed setting based on the BPM of the song in virtual. So there's a protocol called OS2L protocol in virtual, and you can actually sync the two up where it picks up the BPM off your lights or off the music to use it to your lights, whatever. So speaker, tripod, it's a little short. I think it's like this long, like of a T-post, and I hang the two Swarm, the Wash FX2. I don't know why I said Swarm. They're not swarms. They're just Wash FX2s. But then I have the cable actually pre-wired on the back of the little post at the top. And then I use the donor wireless DMX. One is in my Denon case, and then the other is plugged into the back. And so I just have to essentially plug in the cords and run the power cord, and boom, I'm ready to go.
Nice.
And I promise I'll get you that video this week.
Yeah, I was hitting him up because I use the Chauvet 4-bar Tri. I've used that. Oh my gosh, it's probably been 10 years. If not, it's been longer. Like,
those are great lights, though.
They are. They're the Tris. So they're insanely bright, right? Because they're like the bigger diodes. The problem that I have is because it's older technology, if I've got a videographer that's not really familiar with what they're doing and how to adjust their stuff, they sometimes have a little flicker in them, right? Beyond that, they're fine. But
does that have the different diodes, or is that the one with the little ones?
It's got seven diodes in each head. 3 watt because they're each, like, I think it's like 1 watt each or something like that.
Yeah. All right.
RGB.
Yep.
And I wanted to go to something different, but I don't want to go to, nothing against the gig bars, the gig bar moves and all those kind of things. But I like Ben had mentioned, I'm more of like, I like the washes. I like the wash effects. That's where I really like. And so to go to these other ones, it's like, Also, we have all these uplights that are hex colors, right? You know, RGB, AW, UV. And there's no, other than the Wash FX hex, there's not a system really that uses all those colors. There's a couple of them that are out there, but that have that, just, I like that aspect of just hang it, hook it, and be done. Whether you're running wireless DMX or whether you're running a cord for it, either way, it's not as much as, 3 or 4 lights being plugged in. And that's why I like the all-in-ones, but I just want to add a watch.
Yeah. And that's kind of when I built what I'm using now, I thought through how difficult. So before what I have now, I was running 4 Chauvet Slim Par 56s, 2 up and 2 down, kind of like this on the same tripod. And I had it pre-wired, and all I had to do was plug in DMX and plug in power. But with that became space, right? At that point, I was driving a much larger vehicle than I have now. And so I had to look at, is this what I still want to use? And so I got the Wash FX2s and found this little T-bar at my house, this, whatever you want to call it, and was able to actually zip tie so the cables stay on it, on the little post. And so they don't have to go in and out of a bag. O-clamp stay on the lights. I pick them up, clamp them on, plug it in, boom, I'm done. So it takes like 30 seconds, if that. So much quicker than having to go to your trailer off a hook that's up on the track on the top and pick out, do I want DMX or do I want XLR, and having to pick those out. It's already there. And I even went as far as putting a piece of tape over one of the outputs, so I knew that was the one, that was the ender, right? So it goes on a certain side. So far as to label them, even though they run on the same channel. So I have them both on channel 29. And so they just do the same thing, which is fine. Nobody's the wiser because it's so bright. They don't care.
Yeah. He's going to make me a video. That's all he's doing. I told him he needed to, and then he had what was your O-clamp or something messed up on you?
So the little T part that like tightens the O-clamp, somehow it was gone. Don't know. Wasn't in the bag. I turned the bag upside down and shook it, and it wasn't there. Could have been thrown in the lake last weekend at the Halloween gig. Whatever.
Oh my gosh. Well, Ben, at this point, we've got to call it a night. But thank you very much for taking time out of your night to join us here. For those of you that tuned in to watch, we weren't going to like share any like mind blowing type of thing for you, but we just wanted to kind of hang out and talk shop, talk gear a little bit. If you're thinking about upgrades and you're thinking about making some changes, maybe something we sparked on as to why we use something made you want to look at it, whether it's the gear we picked or whether it's something else that maybe fits that new plan that you got. Keep in mind, going into the off season, sometimes you don't have the lucrative income, but it's the best time to be able to learn and utilize the gear that you have when you don't have as much demands on what you're doing. So on that note, make sure you're checking out DJNTV.com/chill. You can go see his show live, and then there's going to be a re-air of that later this week. And John will be posting about all those other shows that are coming up. So you can check all those out throughout the week. But thank you very much. We will be back here next Monday night. So make sure you're planning for that. John will be back. My belief is MJ will be back. Like it'll be the three amigos, and Ben will be watching from the chat room with all of you. Anyway, thank you very much. Have yourself a great night. See ya.